Hey everyone, and welcome back to Zero Escape 999, where last time we finished up the final escape room through door 6, the cargo room. And now things have been going slightly differently in this route so far. Junpei knows of Snake's arm. I keep doing that, Santa and Snake. I'm so sorry to the two of you. Junpei knows about Snake's arm. And Santa has gone into more detail about his family and about lab rats with lab rat experiments involving drowning them if they can't find their way out of a maze. So, things have definitely been a bit different in this route, and I suspect that means that the ending will be different as well. So let's begin. Let's see what happens. The hallway that left the cargo room headed straight for the stern. Junpei and the other three proceeded down it silently. Some distance along it, a large room opened up on the left-hand side. It looked familiar. An iron grate covered each of the elevators. Junpei and his companions drew to a stop and began to discuss what their next move should be. "We've seen this elevator before." "We got off the one on the left just a little while ago." "Then we went through the number 6 door and that took us to the engine room." "Yes, and after that we passed through the cargo room." "And now we're back here." In other words, we made a loop. We're back where we started. Junpei approached the elevator. Gently, he pushed the triangular button on the wall next to it. A moment passed. The elevator door opened. And shut. Pushing the button had apparently restored power to the elevator. The elevator was now functional. "What do we do? Should we return to C deck?" "No, this hallway keeps going. Even if we do end up going back, I think we should see what's down there first." "I agree. Let's go." The decision made, Junpei and his companions left the elevators behind and continued down the hallway. Sometime later, Santa, who had been walking several paces in front of the rest, suddenly stopped. Set in the wall in front of him was a door. So far as Junpei could see, there was no other way to proceed. It was the door or nothing. "All right, let's open it." Junpei took a deep breath, readied himself, then grabbed the doorknob and pulled the door open. He paused for a moment, then stepped through into the room. And there he saw the number that had hung over their heads since they'd woken up. 9. Like the numbers on every other door, this one too was a rough shape made of red paints. Its door was set into the back wall of the room. Junpei leapt toward it with a sudden burst of hopeful energy. It was a large double door, heavy and full of solemn importance. He grabbed hold of the door handle and shook. Nothing, but he hadn't expected it to open. The red sat on the wall next to the door. Its screen read vacant. Finally, they'd found it. Junpei felt himself overwhelmed by a torrent of emotion. At last, they'd found the exit, but cold gripped his heart and he knew all too well why. As he stood, frozen, unsure of what to think or feel. "Junpei! Look! Behind you!" He spun around and couldn't believe what he saw. It was a door with the number 9 written across it. Was there a second door? Why? Junpei's voice was barely audible even to himself. He stumbled toward the second door as if somehow compelled. It was a small, single door. It sat in the starboard corner of the room, on the same wall as the door they'd entered from, but in the opposite corner. 9. There was no mistaking it. A red sat on the wall next to this door as well. Junpei shook the door handle pointlessly and muttered to himself. Why? Why the hell are there 2 doors? It was Santa who answered. There were always 2 doors. Just think about it. Zero never said there's only 1 door with 9 on it. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Of course, we just assumed that there was only one. After all, why would there be more than one? Oh man. Jeez, Junpei was stunned. Zero's trick had taken him completely by surprise. There were 2 doors. That meant that all 9 people who had met at the central staircase could escape and leave no one behind. Now the reason for the bracelet numbers being 1 to 9 was clear. Divided in 2, the digital route for both teams would be 9. For instance, 1278 and 34569. The digital route for both teams would be 9. Or 2349 and 15678. The digital route would also be 9. There were many other workable combinations, but they all ended the same way, with a digital route of 9. What did that mean? The answer was quite simple. From the very beginning, the nonary game was designed to save all 9 people. Zero hadn't been lying. Zero had never said there was only one door. But anyone who'd found themselves in the game would have assumed that was the case. Fights would have broken out. One team would likely betray or deceive the other. Someone might be hurt. Someone might get killed. But eventually, they would reach the room Junpei now found himself in and realize the pointlessness of whatever violence they'd visited upon each other. There were 2 doors. No need to kill each other. They'd understand and be appalled, overwhelmed with guilt at what they'd done. Perhaps that was the purpose of the game. That was how the nonary game was meant to be played. Fortunately, they hadn't started to fight one another, at least not yet. But if one misstep was made, if the wrong mistakes happened, the stakes would rise and the noose would tighten. The thought of it sent a chill down his spine. So, what are we gonna do now, Junpei? A voice broke through Junpei's frantic thoughts. Santa's voice. It brought Junpei back to his senses. No use worrying about the future, he needed to figure out what they were going to do next. There were 4 people in the room. Ace, Santa, Junpei, and June. Their bracelet numbers were 1, 3, 5, and 6. The only combination that would work is, 1, 3, and 5. The digital route would be 6. In other words, the 4 of them couldn't open a door with the number 9. But what if there were only 3? Could door 9 be opened with 3 of them? It took him no time at all to determine the answer. There was only one combination of 3 people that would give a digital root of 9. 1, 3, and 5 is 9. That would mean... No, we gotta go back. That wasn't a possibility he was willing to consider. Santa and Ace agreed. Yep, I agree. We cannot leave June behind. Junpei let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Are you sure? I don't mind staying. June's body betrayed her true feelings. Her eyes were wet with the beginnings of tears and her legs shook. It's okay. There's no way we'd leave you behind. Santa had said what Junpei had known the moment he realized which 3 people could go through the door. Besides, I'd rather drown at the bottom of the ocean than escape with this sausage fest. Maybe I'll get to go to Atlanta. Are you sure you don't mean Atlantis? Oh, right. Perhaps it was a sudden reassurance that no one wanted to leave June behind, but Junpei laughed harder than he had in some time. Santa and Ace smiled. You guys... June blinked tears from her eyes and bit her lip. She didn't seem to know what else to say. Very well, best we head back to C deck then. We should be able to take the elevator we passed earlier. Perhaps Clover, 7, and Lotus will have returned from door 1. Even as they spoke, they knew finding the others wouldn't improve the situation. There was no way they could be split into teams that could go through both the doors. Ace knew it. They all knew it. But there was nothing else they could do. They would find the other 3 and search for another solution. Alright, let's go. Ace looked at all 3 of them, then turned and headed through the door. Santa and June followed. Junpei started toward the door, then stopped. He'd been too busy with other concerns to notice the room itself. It didn't seem terribly important now, but what exactly was it? Junpei looked around the room for the first time, noticing the things that weren't doors with 9 on them. A red carpet ran between two columns of wooden benches that ran the length of the room. The carpet began at the large set of double doors and ran toward the bow toward... Junpei wasn't sure. Was it an altar, perhaps? There was a small rectangular alcove at the end of the carpet, and inside the alcove was a raised platform. Resting on top of the platform was a coffin. A coffin? A coffin? What on earth was a coffin doing in a place like that? But before Junpei had time to answer that question... Hey, Junpei! The hell are you doing? Let's move! Santa's voice echoed in from the hall outside. Right, okay. I'll be right there. Junpei turned on his heel and left the quiet, somber room. They took the elevator up to C deck. Once there, they headed back toward the main hall and the central staircase. It didn't take them long. Junpei found Seven and Lotus waiting for them. They didn't look happy. Fuck. Not again. We've got a problem. Clover is gone! Junpei and his three companions looked at one another. God, this is the same! Oh no! Clover, where are you? We have got to find her and not get stabbed this time. He turned back to Seven and Lotus. What do you mean, gone? Santa, Ace, and June had their own questions to ask. When? Why? You two went into door 1 with Clover, didn't you? Seven and Lotus responded as best they could. Yeah, we went through the door together. But Clover barely spoke to us. She just did her own thing the whole time. There were 4 rooms on the other side of door 1. She wouldn't let us into the 4th room. She just said, I'll take care of this one. And shut the door. She must have blocked it with something on the other side. We waited for a while, but Clover didn't come out. We called for her, but she didn't answer. So I kicked down the door and we went into the room. But... it was empty. Clover wasn't there. There was a door on the other wall. And it was open. We figured she opened the door and left by herself. We ran after her, of course, but... well, obviously we didn't find her. You figured that much out. Clover's gone. Junpei thought for a moment. When did this happen? We got here just before you. You certainly have excellent timing. So you haven't searched anywhere other than near the staircase? No, we haven't. Finally, Ace spoke. His voice had an edge of resolve and concern. Very well then, we'd best separate and look for Clover. We haven't much time left. Let's begin. There were quick nods all around and the 6 remaining players spread out. Junpei and June ran to the large hospital room together. As quickly as they could, they searched around and under the beds and in the corners. She's not here. No, she isn't. Alright, just in case, we should go take a look in the shower room. The shower room? That's where her brother is. Junpei, you have a second chance. Please, I'm begging you to realize it. She might have gone to see him. June bit her lip. She knew, as Junpei did, that there was only one thing to see in the shower room, and it wasn't pleasant. Well, we might as well check, right? Let's go. There was a screwdriver stuck between the door and the frame. Junpei and June slipped through the door, moved down the hallway, and stepped into the shower room. No luck. Yeah, I don't think she's here. June's voice was faint and she placed her hands over her mouth. Her face looked a little green. The stench in the room was almost unbearable. It had grown far more unpleasant since their last visit. If Junpei had eaten a lunch, he would have had difficulty retaining it. He wanted to leave the room as soon as possible, but he had to be sure. And the only way to be sure was to check the other side of the divider. Wait here. June offered no resistance and nodded weakly to Junpei as he headed around the divider. He stopped at the corner and turned his head. As he'd expected, Clover was nowhere to be seen. The only thing on the other side of the divider was a dead body, lying in a reddish-brown puddle of dry and drying blood. There are many ways a man can die, but this... The skull was shattered, and the head little more than a pulpy mass of brain, bone, and viscera. The left arm was hideously twisted into a horrific alien shape, the bright white of the ulna shining through the remains of skin and muscle. Huh? Oh my god, thank you, Junpei! Fucking hell! You have stressed me out so much with this! Wait, bright white ulna? Bones? The pieces fell into place. Junpei remembered something Clover had told him in the laboratory. My brother's left arm is, it's not like a normal person's arm. The accident hurt him really bad. To save him, they had to cut off his arm. Of course. Why hadn't he realized it earlier? That's what I've been saying. Clover had told Junpei that Snake's left arm was prosthetic. But the left arm of the corpse behind the divider was quite clearly a real human arm. Or at least it had been once. That meant the corpse... Junpei and June headed back toward the large hospital room. They stepped through the door and out of the shower room. Down the hallway they went, searching for Clover in every corner. They had reached the stairs when... Seven appeared, breathless and yelling.
Junpei, June, where were you guys?
He looked pale and his face was drawn. Something terrible had happened.
No.
What the fuck do you mean? Junpei's breath caught in his throat. Did something happen? Seven drew a shaking hand across his face and gulped down a breath of air.
Clover is...
Fuck. God damn it. We could have told her. We figured it out, finally. He finally figured it out.
Clover is dead. I found her in the first-class bathroom.
Fuck. This isn't fair. All sound ceased for Junpei. The world was an empty, muffled expanse. Then he began to hear his own breathing. June's mouth moved, but he heard nothing. She tried once more, and then her energy was gone, and she collapsed against the wall. He could have helped her, but he hadn't, and now she was dead. So he stood there, frozen in place. Clover, why? Why had this happened? He forced his body to move. Each step felt like another nail pounded into his heart. Finally, he was in front of her. He knelt and placed 3 fingers against Clover's neck. No pulse, no breath. But she was still warm and her eyes were closed peacefully. It would have been easy to think she had asleep. Easy, that was, if it were not for the slowly expanding puddle of blood beneath her. I'm having a little bit of trouble keeping it together. This hurts. This is fucking mean. This is mean. If I'm stumbling over my words a bit, more than usual. He traced its source to her back. A gash just beneath her shoulder blade. Was the weapon a knife, perhaps? If it was a knife, the killer had taken it when they left. When he closed his eyes, he saw Clover smile. Her innocent smile. Her energy. He would never see her smile again. He could have done something. He could have helped her. His stomach twisted itself into a sickening knot. Junpei lifted a limp June from the floor and carried her from the bathroom. Are you alright? It was a foolish question, and he knew it. Yeah, I think so. Her voice was weak. The fever had gone down, but the emotional scars she'd received were not likely to recede as easily. Junpei laid his hand on her shoulder and they walked back to the bathroom. Or bedroom, rather. You should get some rest. He lowered June until she was sitting against the bed. She nodded once and stared at the floor. There were 4 others in the room. Ace, Lotus, Santa, and Seven. They all stared at nothing, their faces tired and drawn. After a while, they drifted into the bathroom to see Clover's corpse themselves. Once everyone was back in the bedroom, Junpei walked slowly to the center of it and looked around at the slumped figures gathered there. Who was the first to find the body?
Me.
Seven spoke from behind Junpei. He turned around. Seven's hand was up. Why'd you come to this room?
To look for Clover. Why else? I found her body in the bathroom. Soon as I did, I ran outside. I got to the top of the stairs by the casino and yelled as loud as I could. Hey guys, I found her, but it's bad. She's in the bathroom in the first-class cabin. Come quick! Or something like that. Then I went back to the bathroom. Ace, Santa, and Lotus showed up real soon after that. But I guess you two hadn't heard me or something because you didn't show. So I took off down the stairs to look for you. After that, I mean, you know the rest, right?
Junpei nodded and closed his eyes. There was one more thing he needed to ask. Seven, there's one more thing I'm worried about.
What's that?
When we finished all the puzzles in this room and got the door open, you stuck one of those plates in between the door and the frame, right? Why'd you do that?
Come on, didn't I already tell you that? I did it so the door wouldn't lock. So we could come back to this room. Oh, you think I did it?
Well, I don't know. That kind of depends on what you say, doesn't it? Seven, you have looked pretty suspicious on and off throughout this. Seven sighed and shook his head.
Follow me.
There were 2 doors standing next to one another. He opened the one on the right. Behind the door was a closet. Seven steps inside. He stood in front of one of the shelves that filled it and gestured toward a small box. The box was a small metal cube. He looked at Junpei.
This is the reason. This safe. We couldn't open it when we were getting through this room. I figured there might be something pretty important in it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Besides, I figured eventually we might figure out what the numbers are for the safe. And if we did, I didn't want to screw around with door 5 again.
Very reasonable.
So I put that plate in the exit door so we could get back in that way. You get it now?
Junpei nodded and looked at the safe. He grabbed the handle and shook it. Nothing happened. It was as locked as it had been when Seven found it. There was one change, however. Just underneath the safe was a pile of fine reddish-brown powder. Rust. Junpei stared at it for a moment. Had someone opened the safe, dislodging the rust? Interesting. Junpei left the closet. Seven followed him back to the bedroom. It was cold and quiet. No one spoke. They sat, frozen in place by shock and grief and fatigue. So I guess that does give Seven a pretty good excuse, so suspicion on him is now much less. But still. The room felt tiny and oppressive, and the thick metallic smell of blood filled the room. Junpei turned and headed for the living room. Anything to get out of there. Was there some other clue, perhaps? Anything that might lead him to whoever had stabbed Clover? He took his time and examined the room carefully. His eyes caught on the door. The door that led to the passageway of door number 5. Behind that door was the dead body of the 9th man. Maybe I should have another look at it just in case. Quietly, he pushed open the door. The smell hit him like a blow to the face. His lungs contracted, unwilling to inhale such fetid air. Acid boiled up from the base of his stomach, churning what little food was there into a violent froth. It was too much for him, and he vomited. A thin stream of yellow water and bile splattered. Oh, Jesus. Fuck. This game really likes to go all out with the descriptions, don't it? Delicious. Oh god, I'm making the same jokes the game does now. Great, lovely. I've played this game too much. He wiped his mouth weakly and stared at the dead body. Chunks of torn flesh lay in an arc around the body. What remained of its intestines had slid out onto the floor. The pool of blood that framed it was half dry, but so thick that it had taken on a texture not unlike that of an egg yolk prepared sunny side up. Jeez, why? It's always food. It's always food. You always Junpei, you always compare dead bodies to food. What is wrong with you? On the floor next to the broken mask of the man's head lay his glasses, cracks spidering across the lenses. The bloodstains near them had already dried like scabs on the floor. That was when he noticed. It's gone. His bracelet. It's gone. It was there. It had been there when Junpei had gone through door 5 before. He was sure of it. Right next to the sunglasses, or right next to the glasses. But now, it was gone. The number 9 bracelet was gone. But why? Had someone taken it? He was turning it over and over in his mind when he heard Seven's voice.
Huh? Where'd Junpei go?
It drifted out to him from the living room. Junpei walked slowly out of the hallway. Who would take the 9 bracelet and why? What could they use it for? Wait, hang on. In the other route where we got the to be continued, the coffin ending, Santa said he only needed the bracelet. Number 9 bracelet. If you could use that without the 9th man being alive. 9 is a very powerful number. Because add 9 to any set of other numbers and the digital root is the same. It's very, very flexible in that way. It can go with any group. That would be a pretty good reason to have it. But that would only be useful really if you needed an extra number to go through a door. So if you only had 2? I wonder.
Oh, there you are. Were you looking for something in the hallway?
7 looked up as Junpei entered the room.
Did you find something?
He thought for a moment before he responded. No, nothing. Technically, it wasn't a lie. We don't know who would have taken that bracelet or why or what they would have used it for, so... Yeah, we need to keep that close to our chest until we can figure this out. He hadn't found anything. In a way, in fact, that was the problem. Something he'd expected to find hadn't been there, the 9th man's bracelet. What's up?
Oh, well, I wanted you to take a look at something.
What is it? 7 led Junpei back to the bathroom. As Clover's corpse came into view, he felt his heart flip and then fall to the bottom of his stomach. Something between a sigh and a groan escaped his lips. What was it you wanted to show me? His voice was hollow and empty.
I searched Clover's body again. I found this.
As he spoke, he moved around Clover's head, then knelt down and flipped open her right hand. What? She was holding a piece of paper.
I haven't actually looked at it yet. Didn't want to disturb the crime scene, you know. Basic stuff? Well, I did borrow one thing.
Huh? He wasn't sure what that meant, but it likely didn't matter. The paper was more important. He picked it up and carefully opened it. There were 2 sentences written on it. Truth had gone, and truth had gone. Ah, now truth was asleep in the darkness of the Sinister Hand. I recognize this, and I hope you do too, because we've heard part of this before. It's the note Clover wanted to share with us, but didn't have time to in the coffin ending.
What is this? Some kind of secret code?
7 peered over Junpei's shoulder at the note. Junpei stepped away from Clover's body and into the living room. He began to pace, attempting to decode the note. The first clue is likely the phrase Sinister Hand. Sinister Hand means the left hand. Sinister was a term used in heraldry that meant to the left of the bearer of a coat of arms. The left hand. The left hand. What did the left hand mean? Junpei looked at his own left arm. At the bracelet on his wrist. Did the darkness of the Sinister Hand have something to do with the bracelet? He examined the bracelet closely. There were 2 protrusions on either side of the face. the left and right sides of the face. Left and right, left and right, right and left. Truth is gone. Truth, gone. It sounded funny. What did it mean? Truth, gone. Maybe those two words. What else could they mean? What else could gone and truth mean? Truth, of course, meant something that was correct, something that was fact. In other words, something that was right. It would follow then that gone meant left. After all, after someone left, they were gone. In this case, however, they clearly referred to their directional homonyms. So that means truth is right, gone is left. That seemed to make sense. Junpei looked at the bracelet again, at the two protrusions on the left and right of the face. Junpei, press them in the following order. Truth had gone, right, left, right, left, right, left. And then, this number, I will not tell you how, but this number reveals every truth about the nonary game, or about this nonary game at least. I will explain what I mean by that after we know the truth from the game itself. But if you wish to spoil yourself, you may be able to figure out how to decode it in order to get to the truth of the nonary game. Just think about the game so far, and that's your hint. One after another, 8 numbers flashed on, then off on the face of Junpei's bracelet. He checked one more time to be sure. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. I am going to write that down to be safe. I don't believe we need to remember it ourselves, but you never know. 1, 4, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1.
Huh? Hey, what are those numbers?
Junpei didn't answer. He couldn't answer. He had no idea what they were either. Besides, he was sure he would forget the numbers and the order they came in if he said anything. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Muttering the numbers to himself over and over, Junpei headed toward the bedroom. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Before long, he found himself in front of the safe again. Its lock was the only device he could think of that required a sequence of numbers such as the ones he'd just discovered. Besides, someone had opened the safe at least once already. Had Clover come to the bedroom to open it? 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Junpei slowly dialed in the numbers the bracelet had given him. 1 to the right, 4 to the left, 3 to the right, 8 to the left, 3 to the right, 4 to the left, 2 to the right, 1 to the left. Finished. Junpei heard the small telltale sound of a lock opening. He grabbed the handle, took a deep breath, and pulled it up. Inside was a piece of paper. It was roughly the same size as the one Clover had been holding. Junpei picked it up. This is what it said. Fact 1. The nunnery game was played once before, 9 years ago. Fact 2. The person with the number 2 bracelet attended the game 9 years ago. That's Snake. Fact 3. It was planned by the following 4 people. Cradle Pharmaceutical CEO, Gentaro Hongo. Cradle Pharmaceutical Chief of Staff, Nagisa Nijisaki. Cradle Pharmaceutical R&D Supervisor, Teruaki Kubota. Majority shareholder in Cradle Pharmaceutical, Kagechika Musashiro. I must punish them for the innocent lives they sacrificed. This is the only warning they will receive. That innocent souls might be saved, I now state the truth. 0. Junpei left the closet. There were 5 people waiting for him in the bedroom. Ace, Lotus, Santa, 7, and June. He looked at each one of them in turn, then slowly placed his hands in the pockets of his vest. Sorry, but do you think you could all come with me?
Come with you?
I want all of you to go to the big hospital room. Why? There's something I want to be sure of. What do you want to be sure of? I want to know if the person I suspect is really the culprit.
Wait, then you're saying...
Yeah, I think I've got it figured out. I know who killed Snake and Clover. Keeping that close to our chest too, I see. The atmosphere in the room changed. Grief was suddenly gone, replaced by attention, like a strap of leather stretched to its limit. 5 sets of eyes stared at Junpei. He pretended not to notice. Anyway, if you could all please move to the big hospital room. I'll explain everything as soon as we get there. Then, almost as if on cue, the bell began to ring. They all heard it. It was the bell from the clock in the main staircase. The bell rang 5 times, then ceased. It was 5 o'clock. They had only an hour left. Next time on Zero Escape 999. You may already know the truth at this point, but next time, we're gonna catch the killer. I'll see everyone next time for that.